Can you take this series the distance? Can you do that? Here as Slimy Boogermen, yes, we've been very impressed with their run, but a run is a run. You got to make it further than that. If you can make it to the playoffs, what a statement it would be. You knocked out organizations that have paid salaries for players, and you've made it to top 8. And to get there, you're going to ban your most comfortable map? That's a come on, bro, if I've ever seen it. That is not the way that you want to be tangoing here up against BBG in an elimination match.
But nonetheless, here's where we are. We're on the map. We're going to be loading into this 10 seconds away from kicking off. Again, this elimination match, there is no second chance this time around. There is no loser's bracket. There is nothing else to go on. At least during this qualifier, the time is now for both of these squads. They both got 2-0'd, unfortunately, by TSM and Renegades, and now they're going to have to try to get through each other. As we mentioned, this is a rematch between these two squads, and it was the Slimy Boogermen who were able to emerge victorious the last time they met. Can they replicate that success, at least early on, here on Ascent?
And we also have to ask a couple of questions in terms of the Asian selection. We've got a Phoenix and a Reyna. Now, I understand that the need for the double duelist, it's a fine combo. But the Phoenix, as opposed to Jett, it's something that potentially the Boogermen can play. Instinct plays pretty much every single duelist under the sun, but we're going to have to take a pause on that conversation as the action is about to ensue here on the B site. Dev will be taken down. He was top fragging in that previous match, up against the previous series, up against the Renegades, and he is already down for the count. Boogerman down to 2 final players, going to retake in a 2v4. It's not looking so hot.
No, it's a difficult spot to say the least, and unfortunately for the Boogerman, all of BBG is set up in their post plants. Welshy's the last standing, who had a couple of heroics when we saw them last, but unfortunately not going to be the case here. Built by Gamers, starting off the map strong. It wasn't always pretty, but I was very impressed with how they got onto site. They established their post plants. They had the numbers advantage. That looked good out of BBG early on.
Looking at the match up against TSM, because it is a good litmus test to how BBG can do in this match ahead. We'll be paying attention to Bjor's performance, and see if he can replicate the same prowess he did up against TSM. But most importantly, robwiz, 11 double kills in the 2-0 match up against TSM. But he is finding multiple opportunities to be a nuisance for the opposition. Wardell only had 8, and that was the top number for TSM in terms of double kills in their matchup. So robwiz will have to pay attention. If he's alive, he can find great success in dwindling the odds and give BBG a bigger opportunity. But there's a shock dart kill that occurs on the area right into B main. Dev swings, shock dart goes down, finds a frag. Now it's down to the 4v4 push onto this A site.
Take flight. It looks like BBG through cat, through tree. They're going to send in the drone critical. They're going to spot one. Know where some of the resources of the Boogermen are, but they're just going to run right at him, Simo. They've got the gun advantage. They feel comfortable taking these fights. And somehow, well, she doesn't get that kill.
How do you survive that? Anderson's, of course, going to come in from behind. He hears that action. Spike is going down, and now there's a weapon upgrade here for Andersin. We'll see now. Will get into a little bit of a different position, but I think Andersin heard that. He heard the jump from a mile away. It's the 3v3, and unfortunately, Anderson's going to feel that one in the morning. Welshy now trying to use the turret as cover to open up an entryway onto the site. It's all down to Dev with the Sheriff in a 1v3. They spot him out. They know he's on the catwalk. Turret will come up and see him when he swings. Audio cue is perfect for Critical to look up a 4K on the round for Critical, which, of course, at one point or another, you and I are no stranger to his performances on Mamba Gaming. But a great start here for Built by Gamers, moving into the first gun round for Boogerman.
Yeah, it was a strong start, and as we know, like you mentioned, Critical dude can be cracked out of his mind at any point in time, so not super surprising to see a strong start out of him at 5-0. The interesting thing here is because BBG has been able to preserve life so much, they're going to be going into this round with a bunch of Stingers and Spectres too. Yeah, they're going to have full armor, but they're going to be facing full rifle artillery from the side of the Boogerman. If BBG can pull this round off, the financial implications are enormous. But no, it looks like BBG is just getting picked apart. They don't have the guns. Instinct picks them apart with 2. There were all sorts of action from the Slimy Boogerman. BBG just down to 1. in a 1v4. Has the spike at least, but this is not the situation you want to be in.
This honestly feels like a small throwaway around here from BBG. When you 5-stack push from B main and you only smoke the backside, like, what are you expecting? And considering your only flash is Omen, there is a Leer, but it is quite easy to deal with in comparison to like a flashpoint per se or a curveball. Your most reliable flash, the Paranoia. I don't exactly know in what fashion it was used because I was paying attention to the rush onto the site, but it just felt like BBG were like, okay, we're like, this isn't going to be a great round regardless. Let's just see what we can do. At least they find a frag. At least they can take a Phantom out of the hands and hurt that economy. I think that's what Foe is looking for here as well. Can I find another pick with the Stinger? Oh, did they know that he's there? Oh,
yeah,
they know now.
Spotted him a minute ago. Yeah,
oh, okay.
they were sitting on him for a while, but a nice 3K from Instinct. And I think you're right, Simo. It did feel a bit like a throwaway round. The interesting thing is, if you know going into that, it was a roll of the die. Is what it was, right? Like, listen, we know we don't have the gun advantage. Let's just kind of run at him and see if we can get a few picks. And if we win the round, great. If we lose it, we're not really losing much financially. We're still going to have guns to go into the next round. So a bit of an interesting approach, but I think a conservative and ultimately a wise one, nonetheless, from BBG. And that was an important round for the Boogermen to win. We talked about the financial implications of that. They needed that round.
For BBG, this is their return gun round. A couple of shots actually through the smoke, but the battle ensues in the courtyard as unfortunately the Boogermen cannot stand the power of BBG. And that's robwiz with the Spectre. Once again, the multi-kill in his hands. They will funnel around, make sure they clear a lot of the back of that A site. And of course, for Boogermen, Dev not willing to take the fight to BBG. It's a 1v5. Even if you can take down a member or two, it's not worth losing the Vandal in this scenario. Considering we look at his credits, he's at 100. He likely bought for somebody, probably Welshy, moving into that round. And yeah, I'd want to save the Vandal if I could.
Yeah, there's just not a ton to work with. And I'm a bit surprised that BBG is not hunting him out a little bit more aggressively. I think oftentimes when we've seen teams when in a position like this, they all flood off the site, and they do so almost immediately after the spike goes down because they want to try to get that kill. And it's a bigger game at that point than just getting the round win and potentially getting a kill. You're looking to hurt an economy, right? If the more weapons that you can take away, and you highlighted it, Timo, Dev was just down to 100 credits. If they can take that rifle out of his hands, it's a brutal situation for him there. Ultimately, he gets the kill onto the lurking member of BBG. Built by Gamers are still able to get the round win. However, now the interesting thing for the Boogermen, they don't have a ton in their pockets, right? You saw a bit of light armor and rifles across the board, but light armor nonetheless, that's not an ideal situation for the Slimy Boogermen.
Yeah, and the BBG are just starting to implode, and considering that was the round loss, the loss bonus has been reset. It's really rough economically here for the Boogermen. And yeah, you lose the pistol. Yeah, you win the gun round. We get those conversions. We understand that. But the economy, this is an important round for the Boogermen to win. They were hoping that that running back was able to stop or find some information or able to push them out of position there. But the clone's gone. Nobody gets injured. Armor's still up. And the Boogermen have to go back to the drawing board on how are they going to defend this upcoming push in the mid round.
All right, Built by Gamers. They got pushed on a little bit over on A, and as you mentioned, they withstood the aggression of the run it back, and now they're slowly starting to rotate their way over. Bjor establishing some presence across the middle of the map. Bjor was, as we mentioned, an absolute madman in the previous series, looking to keep that performance up, but Built by Gamers have just snuck out of the site. I don't know that anyone knows. Now Dev knows that's going to be a call for the resources to rotate over, but Bjor is able to take care of Welshy. Intox still on the back site, trying to fend off the onslaught. That is BBG, and Andersin is joining the party as well. BBG has just gotten picked apart. They're just down to 2 members left. Will, however, is going to swing. Drop things into a 3v2. It's not out of the realms of possible. Get away!
Oh my god! Built by Gamers! What? Like, okay, think about that. Will's in the perfect spot, hiding in the
10
boathouse.
seconds
He
left.
finds the frag. He leers the members on the B site out of position, and then he dismisses to safety
planted.
where his teammate has already cleared the back of spawn, and he gets the frag through the fruit market. BBG. What a masterful play. Now the spike is down. Here's the retake for the Boogermen. Can they fight this big brain BBG?
Dev using the drone to clear some space. Spots one, did not spot the other member of Built by Gamers as they continue to hunker down.
Cutting their vision.
We'll see if
Still in sight.
this Reyna leer is as effective. They think they realize that they know that at least one is in generator, probably assuming the other one's over, under hell, and
Nice.
it does not matter. Built by Gamer pick them apart after what you mentioned, a galaxy brain play to get out of B and plant at A.
That was, man, am I watching Valorant or am I watching, you know, one of the best movies of all time, Saving Private Ryan? Like, what is happening here? Like, they managed to get Will out of there. Saving Private Will is exactly what that was called. That was so well done. I know that Will was definitely feeling the pain. Like, all of his teammates were starting to die. They were losing the gunfights, entering onto the B site. And to be fair, Foe was the insurance policy. I was looking and paying. I was like, why is he over there? They were playing it like it was bind. You know how you have a lurker in showers and the team pushes B and he can't. I was like, is that what you're doing? No, he was clearing the site to prepare for that long-term play. But now let's move on to the next round. It's the eco here for Boogermen. They're looking for the A site here for BBG, but Boogermen are feeling feisty. Considering they've got, you know, lack of weaponry, they're going to go guns blazing because they can afford to lose these sheriffs.
Yeah, interesting to see the Hunter's Fury already use BBG again, hitting onto that A site. They do not go through tree, and they manage to get onto the site nonetheless. robwiz goes up, he's able to get 1 and 2. Tally up another one, looking for the third, not able to land the shot, but the damage was done, and the kill was traded out. BBG gets the spike down.
Player remaining.
And robwiz is a special character. He is
Bad man.
a scary person to deal with. And I would want no one else other than him to be on the Jett, have the ability to escape in case things get really crazy there. In that instance, he finds the double, pushes for the third, but I don't think he thought he could win that third gunfight. Otherwise, he would have tailwinded out of there. But nevertheless, BBG now up by 4. This is a defender-sided map, so Boogermen really need to capitalize on the remaining rounds, but we still have to see what they're capable of on the attack here for Ascent. If I'm gonna just double back here really quick, I don't actually recall if Ascent was played against the Renegades. It was the first map, and the Slimy Boogermen had a little bit of a better time on the attack, so maybe we can expect a better performance moving into the second half, but at the moment it's the BBG show.
Once again, an early Hunter's Fury. Guns across the board. This is also the second time that it looks like he doesn't have full armor. That may be a bug. We'll keep an eye on that on the scoreboard, but nonetheless, it's going to be full rifles across the board. Boogerman has already lost 1, and BBG are pushing the matter up the middle of the map. You hear that Killjoy ultimate has been used over on B side, and it's actually going to be used in conjunction to trade back, as both teams are trying to lock one of each other down, but they're all committing to the site anyway. This is going to be an absolute bloodbath, regardless of the outcome. Will and Foe are able to get 2. One of the Killjoy ults doesn't grab anyone, and the other one's picked apart before it even gets a chance. BBG in full control of the B site.
Yeah, they were not afraid to push in. They felt the superior power of their own ability. They find the picks that they need and get onto the site. It was a beautiful Venn diagram though on the site. Both lockdowns, you know, showing us one side and of course in the middle both. But BBG do come out on top. This was a gun round for Boogermen. This is an important gun round for them because of course the economy is not in the greatest position. But this swing here from intox, he might be able to find some success. He's trying to get support. Andersin's actually going to take out 2, and now it's down to the 2v3. They're at least making it expensive for BBG. Not maybe willing to push back onto the site because the spike's already been ticking for quite some time. But if they can take weapons out of the hands of BBG, that gives them more opportunities in the remaining of this half to do some more damage.
Yeah, that's a I don't want to call it a win, but it's the best possible outcome given the circumstances. Oh, Andersin got tagged up, managed to stay alive. All right, Built by Gamers has a big lead early on, up 5 rounds. The other thing worth noting is given the history of both of these squads on this map, they're both better on the defensive side. So it's not even, you know, we can have conversations around how the map leans across the board, but Boogermen are better on defense than they are on attack. Same goes for Built by Gamers, but Built by Gamers have been pushing the Slimy Boogermen around here. Once again, it looks like they're going to have a hard and heavy hit over onto that A site. robwiz takes the blades from out. He dashes in, goes up, not able to take anyone out, but Will is going to follow in suit. Is far more successful as he gets an opening frag onto Andersin, and they are on the site.
Yeah, intox is in a tough spot as well. Empress popped. He was looking for that frag onto Will. Will's going to stay down in heaven while the rest of the team's going to funnel in and provide that support. If they decide to push in, guess who's there? It's Will. He'll be able to survive at least temporarily. If they spray through the top of the ceiling, he may fall, but the blaze wall is going to be put in a little bit of an awkward spot there for Will. The Lear's going to help them push in. They've already made their way up onto the site. They're starting to drop down. Here's where the battle begins. It's intox. He doesn't have the Empress anymore, but he does have the dismiss. It's unfortunately all down to Dev. And he cannot find another frag to make it at least a little bit more competitive here. BBG survive with 4, and they're up by 6.
Yeah, that 4-man heaven retake seldom goes well on the A side, and we saw exactly why there, right? Like, they were able to provide fire from a couple of different places, even with the Empress in tow. It just wasn't enough. So Built by Gamers, once again, they get onto the site, they assume their post-plant positions, and they just look really comfortable on this side of the map. They have a big lead to work for it as well, and for the Boogermen, this is a very important round. They've got guns here, but they're broke.
At least it's looking good so far. Welshy and Instinct holding down this B site. Or rather, Welshy's going to find a pick across the catwalk courtyard. But BBG have managed to get the spike down. And now we're just waiting for the Boogermen to retake the site. It's the 2v4, but it's Foe and robwiz. And robwiz doesn't like to wait. So he hops onto the ledge, and now as they're starting to push it, they know exactly where they're coming from, but the shock dart's going to hurt for Foe. Now they push in. It's all down to Foe as robwiz was taken out by a shock dart. I'd imagine that may have been the second one, or that first one. That might have just been perfectly timed. Right place, right time. But for the Boogermen, they win their second round of the half. To be honest, the round that they desperately needed to win to make that second half a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, and it was just a really good use of utility, right? You mentioned the shock darts. The Reyna was in play in there as well, just pushing off the members of BBG that were trying to hold down the site. Also knowing that the Boogermen had the numbers advantage certainly played a factor as well. And once you get into that 4v1, at that point, it's just blood in the water. They can flood onto the site. They can afford to lose a 1v1 if need be, as long as it's going to be traded out. So once Slimy Boogermen got that first pick, it was at that point, it was a done round. They were able to get in, get what they wanted, and get, as you mentioned, a very important round on the board. They still have money, still have guns, but they still are down 5 rounds. Built by Gamers have shown that they're very comfortable hitting a hot and heavy up A. This time it's a bit slower, but it looks like that's exactly where they want to go again.
Look at all that utility just being cleared out by BBG. All of that Killjoy utility is now gone. They'll match the paranoias, and that's going to bode well for both sides. At least they'll trade. But they still feel like the tree room has been cleared out. Andersin's just going to try to hold on. He cannot hold down long enough. BBG will get the spike down, and now Boogermen are forced into, once again, this infamous heaven retake.
Yeah, but this time they're going to have to run it back to work with as well. The problem is the Empress is going to be used in exchange. The shock dart not nearly as successful this time around, but the fire from Instinct is. And he had the classic to boot, able to take care of things. The 3v3, you hear the Hunter Fury has been used now to try to clear off the site from Built by Gamers. And it's not the bow and arrow, it's actually the old trusty Phantom that's able to take care of things. Foe on a 3K looking for more, as there's one member left on the side of the Boogermen, and who else but Foe? 4K on the round. The round, once again, going in favor of BBG by similar manner. They get on the site, they get the spike down. The Boogermen cannot fight back.
Very interesting round there. Foe's in a spot that is not normally checked, because once you leave that smoke, you're thinking, okay, there's one behind generator, there's one behind the double box on the site, maybe there's one back at A main, maybe there's one in the tree room, and I gotta keep my attention at distance. Yeah, Foe was playing the close range. You pop out, he's got a perfect lineup, the perpendicular lineup right to your dome, and it really boded well for him. His positioning gave him a huge advantage up against the Boogermen, and now we're looking at, once again, another round, an eco round for the Boogermen. They're going to have a gun round to follow, but if they can have a thrifty here, It's going to be a miracle. It's going to be a great miracle for the Boogermen because BBG have shown us that, you know, fun rounds are not, the Boogermen are not having a great first half here up against BBG, and it's looking like this round may be quite the same.
So it's really interesting how the Boogermen on the eco have played this. They peeked down to B main, see if they spot anyone, and they did, and you immediately saw members start to rotate over, but some of them held fast, and that's because Built by Gamers were going to be here the entire time. With the guns, they're starting to flood onto the site. Will gets in on the action first, going to dismiss to safety. BBG should be able to pull this thing apart.
Yeah, but Instinct backside. They had managed to bring a Guardian into this round and a Marshal. I'm not sure where that came from. I'm assuming soft buys to even out the economy for the rest of the team. But now it's a 2v3. Things a little bit more doable. Unfortunately, Welshy is a little injured and worse for wear. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult. And just like that, he's going to feel that as the headache in the morning. Intox just trying to escape. He's got the Guardian in tow. There's going to be a robwiz peeking here in just a sec. Vandal will send him down. Built by Gamers up by 7. This last round here is going to be very important for the Boogermen. We talk a lot about being in this position, down 8 rounds, 10-2 in the beginning of the new half. BBG win a pistol, and already your entire existence in that second half is threatened.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost lost. And here's the thing for BBG. They've hit a fast through main. They've hit a fast through tree. They've hit both of those spots slowly. We just saw that they can do it on B as well. BBG have just flexed on the Boogermen on this half, and the truth of the matter is the Slimy Boogermen can't stop a nosebleed right now, much less any of the onslaught that's coming from Built by Gamers. So it's an important last round. The Boogermen, in an attempt to try to salvage things, to keep things respectable in the second half, they've really got to pull a rabbit out of their hat here to get to 9-3 at half.
So let's talk about this setup right now from the Boogermen. Yeah, they're sending their feelers out, but there's a stack here right outside the tree room. You've got Intox alongside Welshy, and they're trying to line up together. So if one person falls, unfortunately for Foe, he bites off a little bit too much, trying to lurk up the middle. We do have an opposite lurk there from Andersin. Now as they start to push through the trade, there is the player, Welshy, that managed to escape. He was not there for the stack. But Andersin is coming in from behind. robwiz loses the gun duel there. It's all down to one final player. Very well played there from the Boogermen. They were able to just hold on in the garden. And BBG maybe were looking for a little bit more. They got a little creative. They had a player looking up through the middle. robwiz was already up in heaven. But they should have just got the spike down. They were trying to hunt for kills instead of playing for the objective.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting things we didn't see a ton of out of Built by Gamers there on the attacking side was the little bait and switch, right? The little trickeration. You invest something over on A, either you don't like what you see, or it's playing this way from the beginning, and they rotate over to the other site. We'll take a look at a couple of the highlights that have brought us to this point. A big lead for Built by Gamers, but now it's the Slimy Boogermen who are going to be on the attack. We're going to have to make something happen. And the thing is, Simo, we talked about this some, the lead is just so big right now for Built by Gamers. You lose the pistol, you're not looking good.
(9-3), still a respectable half. You know, up against the Renegades, it was an 8-4, so unfortunately a little bit worse. But Slimy Boogermen were able to chain 4 in a row at the beginning of their attacking side. We'll see if they're going to be able to do the same here. BBG win this one. We have no idea what's going to happen to the Boogermen. Will they fall apart? Will they be able to weather the storm of the first 2 round conversions? Yeah. We'll have to see. So far, it's slow moving for the Boogermen, but they already have a power player in place. Welshy working his way up through the middle, while BBG are still playing a little bit more passive towards the B site and a little bit more control towards the A site. So we'll likely see a retake towards this B site as Boogermen are headed over there to B main.
Yeah, but look at all that utility from Bjor. He's got that thing lit up like a Christmas tree. Yeah, they're going to smoke off, and they're going to paranoia. They're going to try to flood their way in, but the smoke and the paranoia are going to be traded in kind from Built by Gamers. They still haven't really gotten onto there yet. Now they're going to start funneling their way in, but Built by Gamers are there. Boogermen somehow slip in, but as you mentioned, it's going to be a fight for the retake. Built by Gamers are down 1. Welshy, oh, Welshy's in such a good spot to block that rotate. He read robwiz like a book.
Yeah, unfortunately, Bjor could not... sorry, actually, Welshy finds another one. Sorry, I was a little confused. There was 2 Killjoys there. I was like, who's who? Which one's which? But nevertheless, BBG are falling apart here. It's all down to critical. He does find one here with the ghost, but it's not for long. I like the way, Welshy played that one. You called it out there, playing the power play by holding down the bench there. The rotation from BBG to go wrap around, maybe pull through from the fish market. It allowed Boogermen to not worry about the flank. In fact, Welshy took down 2 players in that instance. That would have been a completely different round if Welshy dies. So now that's going to give him at least a little bit of a saving grace. BBG, we've got to try again on that 3rd round. Well, I mean, if there's Thrifty's impactful, sure, but the Boogermen are going to have the weapon advantage.
Well, and I think the interesting thing is that plays out a couple of different ways. Welshy in that spot, right? If they rotate through like we saw from robwiz, easy money. If they push in through market, he's in a position to where he can wrap around behind them, and it's like shooting fish in a barrel. So it's just a really, like you said, a really good position by Welshy there to fend off what was coming from Built by Gamers. Boogermen were able to find some success on the opening pistol round of their attacking half, but they've still got a lot of ground to make up, down 5 rounds.
BBG, of course, have a large enough buffer, but that losing these 2 rounds isn't going to be the end of the world. But if the Boogermen lose this one, the rounds to follow are going to hurt. So far, it's the 4 for 4. We're seeing 1 traded in the exact same spot, the B main. That Sheriff's definitely going to be impactful here for Foe. If he can find a second, it's definitely going to pay off. Boogermen once again looking towards his B site. This time don't have a power player towards that mid side, so this could be robwiz's opportunity to flank if you want, but now they're starting to funnel in. They're a little bit injured, or at least a couple of members are, and Foe's just trying to make sure that they've already all made it onto site, and so far that seems to be the case. So now they're stuck. Now BBG have the option of either fighting for this or playing for exit and see what they decide with.
Yep, they've got them cornered in. But as you said, they're just them apart. BBG had them in a corner, and Boogermen were perfectly comfortable with that. They, again, as you mentioned, they managed to get the spike down. They got the kills that they needed as well, and they win that round. But now it's on BBG, right? They have the lead. They're going to have guns here. You want to establish some sort of separation at this moment. The reason I say that is because, as we've discussed, Ascent lends itself to absolute chaos, right? To moments where teams can rattle off obscene amounts of rounds at a time. So if you're BBG, you've got to be careful here.
Look at this aggressive peek. I think what he was doing there was they were anticipating a flash, so he had his back turned so that he could swing as they come in. That's a very interesting way to play that. robwiz has bought enough time for Will to get in a cheeky position. He's just trying to be a distraction here. They haven't pushed in quite yet. We're going to try to clear him out with the hot hands, and now he's got to escape. Oh. Yeah, there's no escaping that. And robwiz can't convert. He can't trade it out. This is such a great start here for the Boogermen. Now BBG, they're going to have to pull their resources off from B site or just be careful. They have a lot of, unfortunately, not a lot of options considering they're down a member, and the Boogermen are hunting.
And once again, keep an eye on the minimap. Welshy is playing on that pivot area. If they decide to rotate over, it's going to be Welshy who's going to get the first chance, and it looks like we're going to get a little bit of KJ on KJ as Bjor creeps his way forward. Elsewhere on the map, you hear the Hunter's Fury has been used as they are still trying to get onto the site. The battle of the Killjoys goes in favor of Welshy, and Built by Gamers is just down to 1 member left. It's Foe, who we called before in a similar situation. It did not work last time. It's not going to work this time either. Slimy Boogermen, a flawless round, a statement round for the Boogermen.
Yeah, it all started, unfortunately, in that altercation towards A main. I understand what Will and robwiz were trying to cook up. They were trying to cook up a very long-term play. Leave Will down there. If they're going to push up through A main, we'll have the flank ready, a power player in the wine cellar. But unfortunately, when you got hot hands, when you got a molly, you clear it out. And if you don't have that, if you have a raise, you don't really see a whole lot of raise on Ascent. But if you do, or if you have shock darts, you have utility to clear it out. So why wouldn't you? And so Will really just got caught there. robwiz, I think, got injured as well on the retreat. And then they also did not allow for the flank. And I think what I'm paying attention to here is that Boogermen are always prepared for the BBG flank. Whenever it is, wherever it is, they've got a point player playing that trusts the rest of the team to push onto the site. And if they, in a lot of these cases, we haven't really seen the need for a spike plant. Why? because Built by Gamers are trying to fight for the retake before the spike's even down. They're just trying to not even let that spike go down. And while that is admirable, you're weakening your offense, or sorry, your defense. Oh, it's so big, but unfortunately, oh no, that's so unfortunate.
Swarm grenade out.
You hate to see that so much. But you mentioned it, Simo. The Boogermen are constantly ready for that flank. If it's robwiz, if it's Bjor, Welshy continues to be the anchor that's covering that backside, and BBG have been punished by it a number of times already. You see the Boogermen are investing some resources to get onto B. Critical is out. The ult has been used as well.
30
It's going to
seconds
force
left.
BBG back. It's possible here for BBG, but they're down in numbers. They already have one member who's certainly worse for wear, and that's Will. This is a difficult situation for BBG.
I mean, Welshy wasn't ready for it. He was able to flick on over real quick, but still, nevertheless, it's down to 2 here for BBG. Sheriffs until the last time that we were in this position where BBG had them all cornered up, they set up a beautiful crossfire for the Boogermen. They had a player on that box looking up towards the ledge. Why? Because there's a player looking at the staircase here. If somebody pushed in, the player looking at the box was not going to be afraid. Well, in that case, they weren't a little prepared, but at least Bjor is going to find one for the road. The Boogermen have such a great post-plant setup where they're not letting them really feel too comfortable because they've got all 4 stacked. They don't have a player playing in B main. They don't have a player that's pulled off the site to try to catch these lurks. In some cases, they do. But when they're committing to the B site, the Boogermen commit to the B site. They all huddle up there. They all stack up. And the crossfire hurts for BBG because when you check a 50, you're likely going to get shot from both angles, to be honest. And that's ultimately why it's a little bit difficult for BBG to get in. And also, at the end of the day, there might not be a lot of utility left from the round at hand, right? And in that case, it was down to 2 players. You have a Killjoy who's not really going to be using her utility. And, of course, Foe, who does have a little bit more utility, but the guns, of course, weren't very acceptable.
You saw there robwiz has invested, spent big dollars, got himself an op to show for it. Not able to get the opening pick, but he did spot the turret. It looks like the Boogermen are looking to work their way onto A. Curveball's there, the flame wall's up there as well, but it's actually the operator from robwiz that keep things at bay, at least for the time being, and if it's not that, it's the utility from Bjor that's going to slow things down. The spike is not down yet, but members of BBG need to rotate, and they need to do so quickly. Bjor with a major 2-piece elsewhere on the map. Welshy's not there because he's been waiting for the rotate, and that's going to give them up the site. Welshy's now the last one standing. BBG have taken over. He has no business going in there. This is the round that BBG needed.
Oh, robwiz missing that shot. Welshy survives with everything. Has the armor, has the HP. He's not going to survive that, however, but for the Boogermen, and rather, sorry, for BBG, that was a round that they needed. They needed some momentum to swing back into their favor. But to be quite honest, this is the exact round that they lost against the Renegades here for the Boogermen on that attacking side. It was that 5th round that they lost. This time, we're within 3. BBG aren't too far ahead. Boogermen can brush that one off, the dirt off their shoulder. But Bjor was really the hero of that round. Not really the greatest performance coming out from him in this match. Against TSM, he definitely lit up the scoreboard a little bit more. But he found a moment to give himself some confidence. He held down the A side and did not let the Boogermen plant. And they had wanted to check the left side because they had maybe anticipated, okay, that's actually pretty good. That's a good opening pick. But kudos to Bjor for really holding down that site as we now move into the next round.
There's a point I want to make, but I'm afraid I'm not going to have the time. Yeah, robwiz wasn't able to light up the scoreboard yet, or the kill feed, excuse me. Again, with another pick with the operator. Boogermen, in a rare circumstance where they don't have the numbers advantage, and look at the different positioning by Welshy. They knew to check that bench because he was there before, so they checked that 50, but no. Welshy playing mind games has moved elsewhere. Meanwhile, the spike in the hands of Andersin on the site, but in a precarious situation. Oh, I love that smoke. But the problem is, it's not just a turret you have to worry about. Oh my gosh, it's him as well. robwiz goes in, he goes up. He tried to get the shots with the classic, not able to get it, but it buys them enough time. Built by Gamers start to rotate over. Fall the last one standing further away, wins that big fight up
30
against
seconds
Welshy.
left.
That's going to give them all of the access on the site. Andersin, the last one there. Bjor picks them apart. BBG inch closer and closer to a one-map lead.
Yeah, that was another very important round for BBG to establish some dominance. Boogermen have had really their way with this half of the first 4 rounds, but now that the economy is starting to ever so slightly come back into the pockets of BBG, they're finding a little bit more success, and it's robwiz on the op. I talked a little bit about how against TSM, he had the most multi-kills, I believe, out of anyone in the lobby for the entirety of the series, despite still losing to TSM. And robwiz, with this op, especially on that last round, made it super painful for the Boogermen. And once again, robwiz in that same position, playing aggressive. I love when teams do this, but they have to be a little bit careful because the Boogermen also are aware of stuff like this, aware of plays like this. But this time it seems like they're not.
Oh boy, like 2 ships passing in the night. As soon as BBG goes aggressive across mid, Boogermen just slide right by and make their way onto A.
Nice.
Bjor is able to get that rotating pick that we talked about, that anchor spot. Welshy gets taken out. Instinct does as well. The spike is still not down.
Yeah, they had all this time too. Okay, it's not planted generator. At least robwiz doesn't know that, but now he might know that it's not planted generator. So he's been tagged out by the drone, but the Empress is looking to do some damage here for the Boogermen. If you can find a 1v1 scenario here or intox, that's going to bode well. Andersin's going to help out at least. Now it's down to the 2v3. robwiz is playing contact point from this one, but still intox is alive. The Empress has been so important, and Andersin flanking from behind. The Boogermen answer back with the spike plant, with the Empress, and put themselves back within 3.
And you mentioned Andersin on the flank. That's what broke that open. That's what broke the site open. That's what gave them access onto the site, and that's what allowed them to pick BBG apart. Simo, they were set up really well, right? Like, they had the angles that they wanted. They had everything in front of them, but they just got sucker punched by Andersin. Very well played. Also, I just want to take a quick moment. Huge shout out to the observers. They have been spectacular this entire time, but cinematic shots like that, like, how can you... I just get so excited when I see that. That just makes me warm and fuzzy on the inside.
Yep, I totally feel that too. Got to shout out Sapphire and Mr. J Pistachio. Got to give credit where credit is due. And they are definitely bringing in the flames when it comes to the observing. So is Andersin this round, opening up on robwiz, and we already know ourselves that is a crucial pick taken out. But Bo is also an important factor. Finds someone here, hanging in the peep. The shot, unfortunately, is going to be blinded by the cheese as the curveball comes through, opens wide, and now it's just critical, holding things down with the Odin. But it's all down to Dev. And the wait, what? How does that happen? Where did the shock dart come from? Did he bounce it off the wall there? Into that was one heck of a shock dart. And now we're at match point here for BBG. Not exactly where I thought we would be. I thought Boogermen really started to get rolling, but things are looking scary. They got to win 4 in a row. If they lose this one, well, if they lose this one, it's over. But if they win this one, but it's very expensive, the economy is not looking great. They won't be able to still full buy as effectively. So even if they win, but it's a very costly round, it's going to be tough. So they need to really have a phenomenal round where they dominate build by gamers. And we've seen some rounds like that. It's just the past 2 have been brutal.
Yeah, I think you're right. BBG are at a point where, the Boogermen are at a point here where they have they don't just have to win the round, but they have to do so in a specific fashion just to be able to remain competitive for the next one. And that's certainly not going to help their cause. Andersin sitting on the sideline for the rest of the round. The spike nowhere near any of the sites. You've got plenty of utility over on A. You've got plenty of personnel from BBG over on B. It does not look like Boogermen have much room to work with at all.
Boogermen slowing things down. Gonna be looking to clear out the tree room, but there's a nano swarm that's triggered. Instinct was looking to take that out. You saw that he was looking for it. But unfortunately, it's activated before he can even do anything about it. They're going to rotate off. They at least know that there's some presence towards the A side. Okay, we can account for Killjoy.
30 seconds left.
Lots of member towards B main, so there has to be at least somebody here, but like a turret, Critical is just sitting down there, waiting for the beeps, waiting for the cues, and mows down Welshy. This is already starting to fall apart. Foe's going to be looking for any potential flanks, but he leaves his position, and the recon bolt's going to really help out intox, finding that pick. Now a 4v2 as Critical just once again holding things down like a turret, mowing down anyone that comes in their path. It's all down to intox. Unfortunately, he can't take down the turret. Will find him with the classic, and BBG find a much more convincing win than last time.